Hi, my name's Therea, and today I want to talk about the endocrine system. So the endocrine system is a sort of control and communication system which sends signals throughout the body in the form of hormones. And these hormones travel in our bloodstream all the way through our cardiovascular system, where they'll reach a sort of target organ and produce an effect within the body. So we call it a target organ because that organ will have specific receptors to receive that hormone. So the hormone won't just act on any organ in the body. It must be an organ that has specific receptors to receive the hormone. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'll label a diagram of the endocrine system as we go, talk about the main glands that are involved in the endocrine system. So at the top here, we have the pineal gland. I'm just going to mark it as a wee black dot here. It's like a pea-sized gland that sits sort of in the midbrain. So it's called the pineal gland. And it releases a hormone called melatonin. So melatonin helps our brain to know whether it's nighttime or daytime, and it also helps our brain to figure out what season it is of the year. So it's involved in regulating our circadian rhythm within the body. Just underneath the pineal gland, we have the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus. This one here, and this one is involved in sending sort of stimulating hormones towards the next gland underneath that, which is called the pituitary gland. So it releases hormones like growth hormone, releasing hormone, and then that will send another message to the pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland will be stimulated to release growth hormone, human growth hormone in the body. So the hypothalamus releases lots of stimulating hormones and works closely with the pituitary gland to stimulate the pituitary gland to release further hormones. So underneath here, we have the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland, if I was to, I'll label it first, pituitary gland. That is this one, to make this more clear, and this one. The pituitary gland has two lobes. It's got an anterior and posterior pituitary. So this would be anterior and posterior pituitary. So it's got two sort of lobes that hang down just underneath the hypothalamus. It's actually at the roof of our, just above the roof of our mouth. And the posterior pituitary gland releases hormones such as antidiuretic hormone, ADH. We abbreviate everything to try and keep it simple. So antidiuretic hormone, that would travel in the bloodstream from the pituitary gland towards the kidneys and have its effect on the kidney tubules. So it helps to regulate water levels within the body, and it would basically causes more reabsorption of water, so the body will hold on to water. So antidiuretic hormone is released from the posterior pituitary. We also have oxytocin, another hormone released from the posterior pituitary gland, and that has its effect on the uterus during childbirth, so it stimulates contractions during labour. The anterior, some examples of the anterior pituitary gland hormones would be follicle stimulating hormone. That is a hormone which is involved in regulating the menstrual cycle in females. Luteinizing hormone is also part of the menstrual cycle. So in both, so in females, the menstrual cycle, and in males, it helps increase sperm production. What else do we have from the anterior pituitary gland? Growth hormone, like I said, human growth hormone. It gets sometimes like a small h and then capital GH, which will then have its effect and cause an increase in growth throughout the body, growth in cells, and it will have its effect all throughout the body, in fact, growth hormone. And I'll leave that there just now. It's getting too busy. So many hormones released from the pituitary gland. Just underneath the pituitary gland, you can see I've highlighted it in sort of yellow, this butterfly shaped gland within the neck. So it kind of has these two lobes, with a little sort of bridge in the middle, and then another lobe here. So this is the thyroid gland, and it releases a hormone called thyroxine. This hormone has the highest levels, the highest concentration of iodine found throughout the whole body, and thyroxine is involved in regulating growth and metabolism and cellular respiration. If there's a problem during infancy with the thyroid gland releasing thyroxine, then it can result in a condition called cretinism. So where the child suffers from mental and physical retardation. So the thyroid hormone is really important in growth and development. In adults, if the thyroid gland is overstimulated and overactive, it can cause hyperthyroidism, and then it can produce things like an increased heart rate, increased sweat, nervousness, irritability, sort of bulging eyes and things. And then if the thyroid gland is underactive and not releasing enough thyroxine, it will have all the opposite effects of an overactive thyroid. And you can't really see it here, but there's also 4 little glands here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll maybe draw them small there. These are called the parathyroid glands. Parathyroid glands. And they release a hormone called PTH, parathyroid hormone. And that's involved in helping regulate our calcium levels within the blood. So this part here is our thyroid gland. And then the 4 little nodules are part of the parathyroid glands. Let me just take this away now. Just underneath there, behind the breastbone, we have the thymus. This one, thymus. And basically, the thymus releases thymosin, which is involved in T cell development. So thymosin, it kind of helps develop our T cells, and these are parts, T cells are parts of our immune response. So they're made from a type of white blood cell called lymphocytes, and they help fight off infection and things that we might encounter. This is getting a bit busy now, so I'm going to have to take this away to talk about the glands underneath it. So hopefully you're okay with what I've covered so far. The pineal gland at the top, in the mid part of the brain, it releases melatonin, which helps regulate our circadian rhythm. The hypothalamus, which releases lots of stimulating hormones to stimulate the pituitary gland to release its hormones. The thyroid gland, which releases thyroxine to control metabolism and cellular, just to control metabolism, I'll leave it as that. The parathyroid glands, which help regulate blood levels, blood calcium levels, and the thymus, which helps in the development of our T cells under the action of the hormone thymosin. So I'm going to take this away. You can pause and rewatch that if I spoke too fast there. It's just so that I can get to the glands underneath. So the next glands I want to talk about are the adrenal glands. So these ones, we have 2 adrenal glands, and they sit on top of each kidney. So these sort of bean-shaped, sort of reddy brown organs here, we have an adrenal gland sitting on top of each kidney. So most people will be aware that the adrenal glands release a hormone called adrenaline. But the adrenal gland, is made up of sort of 2 parts. So it's kind of like this wee little sort of 3D pyramid thing. So it has a cortex on the outside and a medulla on the inside. So it's the medulla part that releases adrenaline. So if any Americans are watching that, I think Americans call it epinephrine for adrenaline, but in the UK we call that hormone adrenaline. And adrenaline is involved in our fight or flight response when we have to speed things up, like our heart rate and our breathing rate, to get ready to fight or flee. So adrenaline is released from the medulla part of the adrenal gland, and the adrenal cortex releases hormones like glucocorticoids and anytime we need to produce a sort of anti-inflammatory response within the body. Just underneath the adrenal glands, we've got the pancreas here. This is the pancreas. And the pancreas releases two hormones. You've probably heard of insulin, and less people have not so much heard of glucagon. We've heard of insulin because diabetes is such a common disorder now. So insulin is released by the pancreas whenever we eat a carbohydrate-rich meal to sort of lower blood glucose levels. So the whole purpose of the pancreas and the hormones that it releases is to control and regulate blood glucose levels. The pancreas is also a major accessory organ of the digestive system, but I'm not talking about it for that role. For here, we're just talking about the hormones released as part of the endocrine system. So insulin is released to help regulate blood glucose levels and decrease blood glucose levels, whereas glucagon, if we have not ate food for a while, say we're sleeping or we're fasting, then we will our blood glucose levels will naturally start to decline. So we need to make more glucose. So we will produce the hormone glucagon, which will then increase our blood glucose levels within the body. So I'll take this away and I'll talk about the last two glands of the endocrine glands. So take all of that away. Then lastly, I want to talk about, so here you can see, obviously it's a male person, but we've got both male and female parts to show both parts. So we'll talk about the female first. So here we've got the ovaries. We've got two ovaries and they produce hormones such as estrogen and progesterone. So these are our ovarian hormones and they help regulate the menstrual cycle. They're also involved in female secondary sexual characteristics produced during puberty. Then we've got the testes in males, and they're responsible for producing the male sex hormone testosterone. And that obviously testosterone is involved in producing the male secondary sexual characteristics involved in puberty. So when the man basically gets a deeper voice and facial hair and things like that. So those are the main glands of the endocrine system. Hopefully, if you practice yourself, you'll get to know them all. You can start labeling unlabeled diagrams and testing yourself as you go. There's quite a lot to learn and there's quite a lot of hormones produced by the endocrine system. So it's just getting used to all the glands, all the hormones and what they do. But remember that the way that their messages are sent is via hormones that are secreted directly into the bloodstream. Next system I'll talk about in a further video is the nervous system, and that basically communicates in a completely different way, as you'll see in a further video. So I hope that was helpful, and any questions then please just post in the comments and I'll reply as best I can.